strange idea of converting the part of the hospital where my office is, the 5B wing of the University Hospital, into a physician well-being center / tech demonstration area / doctor's dining room in 2022. And so you might say, well, okay, what stimulated this? So the answer to that is quite surprising. So if you think about, if you can imagine being older than 32 and you had an idea 32 years ago, how would you decide whether you should keep mentioning the idea or keep talking about the idea? Well, that would be answered by whether somebody else had obviously taken important actions in their life based on this idea. And so that's what I'm about to tell you happened. So in 2022, some of you may have read in the newspaper, all of laboratory medicine, not only from our hospital, but from all the northern half of the province, is moving into a single building. It's going to be, the building will be built or start soon, and it's near the School for the Deaf. And so it's the biggest efflux of people out of University Hospital ever. So so it basically means that end of the hospital, all of the floors will be empty of laboratory physicians, and obviously something else needs to go in there. And a lot of people are concerned about, when they move to Hub Lab, what life at Hub Lab is going to be like. But I'm perhaps the only person who's asking the other question, is what use is this space that we're now in going to be put to? And so I'm going to give you the background for that, and Gagan can make remarks as he sees fit. One thing I asked him to do is go and look out the windows in our area and see what he thinks of the views there. So when I came here in 1987, this was the profile that was written about me, and one of the things that I'd sort of forgotten is, even in that profile, we talk about staff shortages. So there were problems with staff shortages even back then, 32 years ago. And so that well-being was a problem even at that time. So when I came here as chair of pathology, I spent a lot of my time recruiting. And how did I do that? First of all, I learned a lot about Wayne Gretzky, and that worked very well for the first year until he got traded to the Kings. So that left only big sky and beautiful sunsets. That seemed to be a kind of popular topic and something that made this part of the world very different from my point of view. So does that surprise you, Gagan, or is that what you would predict? What would you think I would use if I wanted to attract people to Edmonton?
I mean, if you want to, scare people away, you talk about the depressing cold nights in winter. But if you want to attract people, I guess, like, Edmonton's a pretty big research center, right? So, and you coming from a big university such as Johns Hopkins, you must have noticed something, potential coming to your face.
Yeah.
So, if it was enough to attract you, I'm pretty sure, Edmonton's good enough for most positions.
Yeah, but people have families, and so it has to be more than just, the academics and the jobs. So anyway, so I started talking about the big sky, and even when there's a thunderstorm, it's so beautiful, all this kind of thing. And yeah, so this became my thing. And when Gretzky was traded, the skies became sort of my dominant recruiting metaphor. So this is where we lived at that time in 422 Olson Close in Riverbend, Ogilvy Ridge. And you see those windows in the front, this bay window and those windows, they sort of faced the hospital. And from my office at the hospital also, I could see my house. And it may sound boring to you, but the reason that I tell you it's not boring is because somebody remembered these remarks that I was making about how cool it is, like the sunrises and sunsets, that I have this sort of reflection back that when I'm at home I can see where I work, and when I'm at work I can see where I'm living at home, and just the coolest thing. And you often get these beautiful light from sunset or sunrise and so on. So that inspired me. It may seem like an odd thing, but okay. One of the people I recruited at that time was Yukako Yagi. She had worked for the Nikon camera company as a sort of digital imaging expert, and she became the first digital pathology expert. Even before that phrase really existed, nobody talked about digital pathology, but anyway, I recruited her to work on digital imaging, and that was her first academic job. And she then went to the University of Pittsburgh, and then very recently she was recruited by Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City. And it was a very high-profile job as sort of director of digital pathology. And she insisted on having an office with a beautiful view of the outside, and situated so that she could see her apartment from the hospital office, and she could see the hospital office from her apartment. And she told me that. And I thought, holy smokes, I guess that idea appealed to at least one other person besides me. And so what that makes it clear is that off and on, over the past 32 years, I've spent a lot of time being entranced by the Edmonton skies as seen from our part of the hospital. And it seems like other people might be inspired by that too. So now think about the Hub Lab. When it was announced that all of lab medicine would be moving to the Hub Lab, people were worried about what life would be like there. But I know the people who are planning that place, I think life there is going to be great. There'll be economies of scale that allow you to do things nobody else will be able to do, because we'll have more cases, more this, more that than anyone else. And it's going to be really, really cool. So what I thought about is the space we're leaving behind. What's going to happen to that? And so I actually think that that's an important question, because probably many people have their eye on that space and say, well, when the lab physicians move, we should get that space for our department, our unit, whatever. But what I'm talking about is something that's for everybody, that the hospital needs a kind of well-being center, a place to celebrate physician well-being, where physicians can get together and talk in a relaxed, casual setting, and maybe even a doctor's dining room, because believe it or not, there are articles now on physician burnout relating it directly to the fact that there aren't doctors' dining rooms anymore. There used to be this exclusive place where you could go and hang out with other physicians, but that doesn't really exist anymore. And here's one such article. This is a 2018 article, Professional Loneliness and the Loss of the Doctor's Dining Room. So, yeah, so maybe this area of the hospital, the beautiful views outside that I have been enjoying these past 32 years, could become that. And that then benefits everybody, Whereas other options would just benefit the winning group, right? If some, department or section or, division wants to move in there, that just benefits them. But this would benefit everybody. So, Gagan, does that idea appeal to you? What do you think about well-being as a goal? Is that like a stupid goal, or is it something real?
I mean, like, in the past, Dr. Brell has come to talk about, how doctor-physician burnout is a thing, and how, physicians, if they're not, doing the task at their peak capacity, there could be problems in the cases to diagnose, or there could just, be potential self-harm and some potential risk, included with that. So, just, having a space that can benefit all departments of the hospital not only will increase the effectiveness of physicians and stuff, I guess it will also decrease the burden on the healthcare system, because you have physicians who are able to actually do their jobs to the best of their ability, right? That's why big tech companies all the time have these fun spaces, right? Like these stressed out software engineers have these places they can go relax, there's free food, all these areas. Why don't we have something similar to that in a medical sense? And I feel like this is the idea Dr. Solez is trying to propose.
Yeah. Well, I think that it is scalable, right? So you can figure out, I think this is really important. So maybe the whole floor, 5B could be physician well-being. Somebody else might think it's important, but not anywhere near as important. So maybe just half that space, or a third, or maybe this, So it is scalable. People can negotiate, decide, but I think it is very likely that you could justify use of at least part of this space for that purpose. It seems like it would be useful to be promoting that. And this is not unrelated to everything else going on in the world, because it happens that this very Friday, March 1st, Medical Grand Rounds, is Peter Brindley talking about burnout and wellness, getting beyond the platitudes. And so I plan that the video from what we're doing now will be done before Friday, and I can share it with him, and who knows, maybe nothing will happen, but maybe he will also become interested in this idea of a physician well-being center. So, just a few words about Future Day. Future Day is a day, but it's not a holiday. Maybe it will be a holiday sometime. And we teach in this course about exponential change, but this is not what experienced here, because in 2012 it was in 16 cities, and then the next year 12, and now it's down to about 2 or 1.5. And there was going to be one in India, but they canceled. I was really upset with that. So, India is a big place, and they have an India Future Society, and they planned something for Future Day, but about a week ago they decided to cancel it. So, who knows? So it seems to be hard to get people on board, but we've been using it to try to raise people's spirits, stimulate interest in the singularity through a new holiday. You've already received a lecture on this. You don't need it over again. This is a picture of what the first Future Day in Edmonton looked like. That's Joel Crichton. This is our previous banner with the Crayola Bomb poem here and the Beatles' Imagine, John Lennon's Imagine graphic there. So, these are the places that originally were enthusiastic about it. Most of those places seem to have lost their enthusiasm. So this is Rome. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I don't think this idea will come to fruition in a short time either, but I thought we should at least start talking about it. So that's what this video is an effort to do. So any questions, comments? Do the rest of you think that this is an idea that's extremely timely? Do you think it's like the least intelligent thing that's ever been said in this course, or somewhere in between? Or How do you find it?
Opinion, because I'm not in medicine.
What?
I don't really have a strong opinion because I'm not in medicine, but it seems like a good idea to let people de-stress because most facilities don't actually offer any sort of job integrated ways to reduce stress.
Right. See, in medicine, it's actually even more complicated than that, because the solution and the cause of the stress you're talking about seem to be the same thing. That the electronic medical record, a lot of people feel stressed by. May have been stressed by. You go to see your doctor, and rather than looking at you, he's looking at a keyboard and a screen. That may not seem entirely satisfactory to you. It's frustrating to him or her. But now the province is investing in a new electronic medical record system called Connect Care. And I think it's going to be superior to what we have now in every way, and possibly it will make this downright fun, where the stress will be removed from physicians' lives because communication is made much more easy and natural. If you think about, like, in an ideal world, the technology your physician is using to communicate in the workplace should be like cooler, faster, and more intuitive than the ones you're using in your personal life, right? But instead, we've got pagers and using voicemail, and I mean, we're like stuck in the 1960s to some extent. But that's changing because we have this new system. So yeah, we could think of the possibility that things are going to get much, much better with this new system. But also right now, there are a lot of physicians who are stressed in part because of the system that we currently have. Yeah?
It's just slow.
No, it isn't that it's just slow. It's inaccurate, and it seems clunkier than necessary. Like, the very first thing that one physician might like to know is he's helping with the care of patient X. Who else is currently taking part in the care of patient X, right? I mean, it seems like such a simple thing. But right at the moment, that's very, very hard to figure out. Like, you have to email everybody in a certain unit and say, are you looking after Mrs. or Mr. So-and-so, So it seems incredible that there shouldn't be some automatic way of being able to figure out that. Or who's on call for something or other. You need some kind of subspecialty help, but it seems very, very difficult, even though that unit has a call schedule. It's complicated enough. They can't really give you a sort of document that tells you who's on. You have to spend some time figuring that out. So all that will obviously change, but that's the way it is now. And the kind of old-fashionedness of the uncertainty of leaving voicemail, the uncertainty of writing rush on something that really isn't a rush, or trying to get something rushed without ever letting anybody know in any easily communicable way that you want it rushed, and so on, and then being upset when it's not rushed. I think everything I've just talked about will seem to you like it should not occur in 2019, but it's all happening now. Hopefully in a year or two, none of that will be happening. So any other questions? So we're going to end up with 30 spare minutes in this class. I guess you'll be able to find some use for that. Yeah, Annie?
Just really sort of half-related question. How much is physician burnout and all that related to the concurrent work ethic in this society's culture?
Well, so it depends on what you mean by work ethic.
Work culture, rather.
There are some specialties in which the call schedule, the expectation that the person would be reachable and working is worse than like the child labor sweatshops of, you know, primitive cities in like the 1700s, right? But that's only part of it, and that's not the only cause of, you know, physician burnout. On the other hand, there can be physician lives that are so satisfying that you don't really mind being in you know, connection with the system most of your waking hours. That's fine, because you're not often asked to do terribly burdensome things. It's just that, you know, you're sort of reachable during that. So you can argue it various ways about you know, what the causes of burnout, and then there are some other specific things, like if you're involved in a part of medicine that uses anesthetics or painkillers, and so you're constantly handling them, and you have some vulnerable issues yourself, then you may become an addict of these products and so on. So it isn't just one thing, it's many different things. And so there's no ideal solution, but I think that a well-being center like I'm suggesting would probably help. It's a gesture, right? I mean, if we actually devoted part of this space to this purpose, I think people would take that as a signal that people really care about their well-being. Maybe not enough to give them the entire wing, all 5 or 6 floors, maybe just one floor, or part of a floor, or part of the floor, or one room, or something, you know, whatever it ends up as. So, Gagan, any parting words here? Yeah, I think with something like this, it is good to have 2 people talking about it. It just gives it a more normal flow. Yes?
I just have a question about call, because I don't really understand, like, because I know, like, when you look at any, like, specialty physician, it's, like, only a percentage of them do call, right? So there's an option to not do call? I'm sure call, like, contributes a lot of stress, because you're unsure, like, what your future day schedule is like.
Yeah, so there are 2 things to think about there. One is call, being on call. The other is teaching, like doing small group teaching of medical students. And you're suggesting kind of subset, and actually subsets don't apply so much to call. Most specialties that have an on-call system, everybody is a part of it. Not always, but usually. On the other hand, teaching is a kind of voluntary thing. And like of the 600 physicians in faculty of medicine, about 160, 170 do direct small group medical student teaching. So you say, well, why don't they all do it? Well, some of them enjoy teaching more than others. Some are naturally better at it than others. So, you know, it's hard to really blame people for either doing it or not doing it. It has something to do with their own personas, sense of self, right? That they feel that, you know, this is a talent that they have, so they should spend a lot of time doing it, or, you know, the opposite, that they're not really very skilled at teaching. Yeah, the people who are on call needs to have this skill level to do whatever they're being asked to do, and obviously that varies specialty by specialty. So, yeah, but there's no moral judgments to be made of, you know, the person who teaches is morally superior to the people who don't. That is not the case. Yeah.
Like, how much control do doctors have in organizing their schedule? Like, I've heard some doctors say on calls, like, for sure, everyone has to do it. But then I've just read other places where, oh no, like, you can like, kind of adjust the schedules of whatever lifestyle you're interested in.
Yeah. So my own belief, based on my own career, is that you can configure a medical life that works for you. You know, you can have agency, meaning you can sort of be in control of how your work life is configured. You can certainly stumble into a situation where you have no agency at all, just people telling you what to do and everything's wrong. But you've made some choices to get there. It's like if you paint yourself into a corner, that doesn't happen without the paint, right? So, I mean, if you end up in a work life where you're the most unhappy physician you know, then somehow you did something to get there. And it's true that there may be, you know, unfair things in the system and that sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I think I have a dual bias there. I'm a naturally happy person. I've been happy in my medical career my whole life, so it isn't that I don't have empathy for unhappy physicians. I've met a lot of them. My father was an unhappy physician who sort of felt somewhat burned out during most of his life. So, yeah, I don't know. Some of it's accidental. It isn't just choices people make. Other questions? Yeah.
I was just curious when you were talking about the 5th floor, like what's the process for deciding which portions are allocated to whichever departments?
Well, you know, in the current hospital, there's long history of how things got to be where they are and so on. I don't exactly know what the process is going to be. I mean, this would be the largest amount of University Hospital to be vacated, I think, all at once in its entire history. So I don't know how. And I thought this video might actually, you know, contribute to that in some way. Somebody will look at it and say, well, this is absolutely not going to happen. You know, we have rules here and they are not. We're going to spend some part of this on physician well-being. That's absolutely ridiculous because we have other priorities, X, Y, and Z. Yeah. I don't know. It's sort of in terms of its scale, it's a larger decision about use of space than we've ever had since people moved into that building in the first place. I mean, that was obviously a really big deal. So we haven't had these kinds of large volume physician displacement kind of thing for a long time. Other questions? Okay. Yes.
Just our last question.
Yeah.
I couldn't find like a statistic on like what % of physicians in Canada are burned out.
Yeah, it's high. I don't know in Canada. You're right that the data is mainly US, but I think it is high. And so I'm not the best person to answer that, but
Yeah, like she did a presentation before on physician burnout. It was about half of physicians repeated being burned out most of the time. 86% of them repeated being burned out at one point or another in the last year. So these are from American studies, so maybe you're right, there is no Canadian data on this available, but there is substantial data that shows that physicians are burnt out, majority of the time.
okay, so you may not have realized it, but you probably have encountered some burnout physicians yourself. There are a lot of them out there. Okay, I think that's enough for the video. Thank you very much for listening.